Elvis Presley's Graceland mansion is at the center of a court fight. It's a hugely popular tourist attraction, and it appears to be headed for a foreclosure auction later this week. But Elvis's granddaughter, actor Riley Keough, is fighting back with a lawsuit claiming fraud.
For decades, the attic at Elvis Presley's Graceland stayed completely shut. But recently, after 48 years, when it was finally opened, what they found wasn't just old photos or Elvis's famous outfits. Someone had actually been living up there. The emotions this discovery stirred were so strong and personal that they felt almost disturbing. So, who had been hiding in Elvis's attic all these years? And did the Presley family know anything about it? Join us as we uncover who stayed in Elvis Presley's locked attic for 48 years. Opening of the attic. On a cold January morning in 2025, a small group of archivists wearing white gloves climbed the narrow stairs leading to the attic at Graceland. Their footsteps echoed in the quiet house. No one had stepped into that attic since the 16th of August, 1977. The door opened with a long, tired creak, as if it had been holding back decades of waiting. When the light finally spilled inside for the first time in nearly half a century, everyone fell silent. This wasn't just an old, forgotten storage room. It looked like a carefully arranged time capsule. Either Elvis, or someone very close to him, had organized the attic into neat sections, each one telling a part of his life story. The space was much larger than anyone had imagined. It stretched across the whole top floor of the house, with dormer windows covered by heavy blackout curtains. Unlike the rest of Graceland, which was bold and full of color, the attic was simple: plain wooden walls and bare floors. The room felt strangely cool because a small air conditioner was still running. The maintenance crew had kept it working all these years without ever going inside. Along one wall were dozens of boxes, each labeled in Elvis's own handwriting. The labels said, Tupelo 1945, First Recordings, Army Days, Hollywood, Comeback Special, and Vegas. It was like he had created his own personal timeline. But the box that stood out most was one marked After, dated 1977, the year he passed away. The archivists began their careful work. They photographed every item before touching it. Each box got a number, and everything inside was written down just like in a museum. It would take months to go through it all, but a few things immediately caught their attention. In the Tupelo section, they found an old teddy bear. It had one missing eye and several patchwork repairs. This wasn't a fan gift. Records showed this was Bear, Elvis's own childhood toy. His mother, Gladys, had sewn the patches using pieces of her own clothing. You could still see faded flower patterns on its chest and arms. When Elvis's father, Vernon, went to jail in 1938 for writing bad checks, Elvis and Gladys were left nearly broke. During those hard months, Bear had been Elvis's closest friend. In the Army Days section, they found a Bible so worn that its spine was held together with electrical tape. This Bible belonged to Gladys Presley, and she gave it to Elvis when he entered the Army in 1958. Inside the front cover, she wrote a message telling him to keep his faith. Throughout the pages, Elvis had underlined verses and written small notes, questions, thoughts, and short prayers. One of the last markings was from August 1977, just days before he passed away. He had marked Psalm 23. One of the most touching finds was a leather-bound yearbook from Humes High School in Memphis. Elvis almost never signed other students' books because he was shy and got teased for his clothes and style. But this one was filled with signatures. Many classmates had written encouraging notes. One message said, "Keep singing, Elvis. You're going places." The Hollywood section showed a different side of his life, his struggles with fame. A leather jacket made for his role in Jailhouse Rock had a small, handwritten note tucked into a pocket. It said, "Wear this when you need to disappear." Beside the movie items was a stack of books. They weren't books most people would expect him to read. These were about Eastern beliefs, religion, and big questions about life and death. Many pages were underlined and filled with notes. In the Vegas section, the archivists found something that made them stop. A doctor's report from 1974 marked confidential. The full report is still sealed until the family reviews it, but the cover mentioned heart problems and said Elvis needed to make major lifestyle changes. Still, he kept performing for 3 more years. What had been kept hidden in that attic for 48 years? Let's find out. The shocking discovery. When a team of archivists finally opened the door to Elvis Presley's locked attic in 2025, it felt like stepping back in time. Everything inside had been untouched since August 16, 1977. But what they found wasn't just old stuff. It felt like pieces of the real Elvis, the man the world thought it already knew. One of the most surprising discoveries was a stack of reel-to-reel tapes marked in plain handwriting. Practice Sessions, 1976. These weren't the polished songs people were used to hearing. They weren't made for anyone else. It was just Elvis, alone, trying things out. You could hear him mixing gospel, blues, and even early electronic sounds. He was experimenting, exploring directions no one had ever seen. As they kept searching, they found even more personal things than glittery stage outfits. There were scribbled lyrics on napkins, hotel stationery, and notebook pages. Some lines were crossed out, some had little notes to himself. One sheet had alternate lyrics to Suspicious Minds that never made it to the final version. It gave a real glimpse into how his mind worked. Perhaps the saddest find was a pile of unopened fan letters, still sealed, exactly as they had arrived. There were letters from soldiers thanking him for lifting their spirits. Families shared how his music helped them through hard times. Young musicians asked for advice. One letter, postmarked 1976, begged him to rest and take care of his health. It was never opened. Maybe if it had been, things could have turned out differently. Together, these attic discoveries told a deeper story than any biography ever could. They showed a man full of talent and pain, someone who made history but also saved old childhood toys. A man who cared about his fans even while struggling with his own problems. A man exploring bold new music, even as his health failed. For many fans, these discoveries brought peace. The things he left behind weren't random. They had been kept for a reason. It was as if he wanted them to stay there, at Graceland. But for some, the mystery only grew. In 2018, Elvis was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Why is Graceland so mysterious? Let's find out. Mysteries of Graceland. On a cool spring day in the year 1957, a young Elvis Presley, only 22 years old, drove through the gates of the place that would soon become one of the most famous houses in the world. The big white home on the edge of Memphis cost $12,500 back then, which would be almost $1 million today. Elvis didn't change its name. He liked it exactly as it was, Graceland. At first, it was just a house, but very soon, Graceland became a part of Elvis himself. The land stretched across almost 14 acres. There were barns, stables, and horses walking freely through the fields. The whole place felt full of energy. One of the wildest residents was a chimpanzee named Scatter. Elvis dressed him in tiny clothes and took him to parties. Scatter always caused trouble, pulling on women's skirts or grabbing drinks out of people's hands. The staff used to say Scatter was like Elvis's wild side, the part of him he didn't always show in public. By the year 1964, when the Beatles were taking over America, Elvis created a quiet place just for himself. He called it the Meditation Garden. It had flowers, fountains, and tall white columns under the Tennessee sky. Elvis went there to sit, think, and escape from all the noise. It was nothing like the loud, flashy Elvis people saw on stage. This was the calm, quiet, thoughtful Elvis most fans never knew. But while the garden showed his gentle side, other parts of Graceland were much more playful. One room, called the Jungle Room, had green shag carpet on the floor and even on the walls. The furniture looked like it came from some far-off island. Down in the basement, Elvis had a TV room where he could watch 3 shows at the same time, which was a big deal in the 1960s. In the racquetball building, there was a piano where Elvis played his final songs just hours before he passed away. Everything changed on August 16, 1977. That was the day Elvis Presley passed away in his upstairs bathroom. From that moment on, Graceland stopped being just a home. It became a shrine, a mystery, and a place frozen in time. In the days that followed, almost 100,000 fans came to Memphis. They filled the streets, cried outside the gates, and waited to say their last goodbye. Inside the mansion, Elvis lay dressed in a white suit and a blue shirt. People who saw him like that never forgot it. On August 18th, 17 white Cadillacs led the funeral procession through the city. Famous people like James Brown, Sammy Davis Jr., and Caroline Kennedy came. So did Priscilla, 9-year-old Lisa Marie, and Elvis's heartbroken father, Vernon Presley. Elvis was buried next to his mother Gladys at Forest Hill Cemetery. The family hoped he would finally rest in peace. But that peace didn't last long. Only 2 days after the funeral, something shocking happened. Late at night, a group of men broke into the cemetery and tried to steal Elvis's coffin. They didn't succeed, and they only damaged part of the tomb before they were stopped. But the message was clear. Even in death, Elvis wasn't safe. Vernon Presley was crushed. He didn't want to risk anything else. With help from the police, he quietly had Elvis and Gladys moved. In the middle of the night, they were buried again. This time in the Meditation Garden at Graceland, the peaceful place Elvis had created for himself. That one choice changed Graceland once more. It was no longer just a home or even a memorial. It became a protected fortress. Vernon added new alarms, hired guards to watch the property day and night, and closed off certain areas, especially the entire second floor and the attic above it. The official reason was simple: privacy. Elvis's bedroom, the bathroom where he passed away, and his personal space were to remain untouched out of respect for the family. But over time, fewer people believed that explanation. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, after Vernon passed away, visitors were allowed to walk through most of the mansion. They saw the kitchen where Elvis made peanut butter and banana sandwiches, admired the bright stained glass windows in the living room, and stood quietly at his grave. But the upstairs stayed off-limits. A rope blocked the staircase. The attic door remained shut. Even world leaders weren't allowed up there. Tour guides always repeated the same line: "The upstairs is private," out of respect for the family. And that's how it stayed for 48 years. No one went upstairs. No one touched the attic. It became part of the legend. Tourists stared at the gold records and sparkling jumpsuits, but they always looked up, wondering what secrets were hidden just above them. Yet while the locked attic kept physical secrets sealed away, something far more unsettling remained in plain sight: the real truth about how the king of rock and roll passed away. What secrets did Elvis's doctor know that the rest of the country had no idea about? Let's find out. The fall of Elvis. On August 16, 1977, Graceland fell silent. The day had started like many others during Elvis Presley's final years. The curtains were closed to block the hot sun, and the bedroom was cool and dark. At 42 years old, Elvis was used to staying awake all night and sleeping most of the day. Sometimes he stayed up for days before finally crashing into a deep, substance-induced sleep. His girlfriend, Ginger Alden, woke up around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but Elvis was still in bed. That didn't surprise her. She went about her routine, expecting him to get up later. But by mid-afternoon, something felt strange. The house was too quiet. Around 2:30, Ginger knocked on the bathroom door. When he didn't answer, she pushed it open and saw Elvis lying on the floor. His pajama bottoms were around his ankles, and his face was blue. She screamed for help. Joe Esposito, Elvis's close friend and road manager, ran upstairs and began CPR while someone called an ambulance. Paramedics arrived within minutes and tried to revive him while rushing to Baptist Memorial Hospital. Doctors worked frantically, but by 3:30, they announced that Elvis Presley was dead. Radio stations stopped their regular shows. Fans cried and asked how the king could be gone at just 42. That evening, Dr. Jerry Francisco, the medical examiner, told reporters that Elvis passed away from cardiac arrhythmia. His heart simply stopped. Natural causes, he said. But many people felt something wasn't right. Even in 1977, everyone could see Elvis had changed. He had gained a lot of weight, reaching almost 260 pounds. His performances were uneven. He forgot lyrics, talked too much on stage, and sometimes needed help standing. The truth from the autopsy was darker. It showed a heart that was enlarged, a swollen liver, and damage linked to long-term prescription medication use. The toxicology report revealed high levels of several strong medications such as Dilaudid, Quaaludes, Percodan, Demerol, and codeine. Dr. Francisco didn't mention any of that. Many wondered why he hid the truth. Some thought he wanted to protect Elvis's reputation. Others believed he was covering for the doctors who kept giving Elvis these medications. One of those doctors was Dr. George Nicopolis, known as Dr. Nick, who had been Elvis's personal physician since 1967. In only the last 8 months of Elvis's life, Dr. Nick wrote prescriptions for more than 10,000 pills. The year before, he had prescribed nearly 19,000. In those final months, Elvis filled 195 prescriptions, about one every day and a half. Dr. Nick defended himself by claiming Elvis had real medical problems, including chronic pain, glaucoma, and an intestinal condition. He said the medications were necessary. Later, his biggest excuse was that he was trying to protect Elvis. If he didn't give Elvis the pills, he argued, Elvis would have found them somewhere else. He said he was slowly trying to reduce Elvis's medication use while still keeping him stable. But the Elvis people saw near the end was not the man who once changed music forever. He stayed awake for days on stimulants, then knocked himself out with heavy sleeping pills. His diet was unhealthy, and he used strong laxatives to lose weight. On his final day, Elvis took his usual combination of medications. After playing racquetball in the early morning, he returned to bed with more pills. Those last doses were likely too much for his weakened heart. Tennessee officials didn't accept Dr. Nick's explanation. In 1980, he was charged with 14 counts of overprescribing medications to Elvis and other patients. A jury found him not guilty, but the state medical board continued investigating. In 1995, they permanently took away his medical license. Then, in 2020, writer Sally A. Hodel published a book called Destined to Die Young. She argued that Elvis had genetic health problems, including alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which harms the lungs and liver. She also believed he had a weak immune system, which made him sick often and led to heavy medication use. If she was right, Elvis wasn't simply a substance use disorder. He was a seriously ill man whose conditions were not fully understood at the time. The mystery around Elvis's death only grew in 2024 when a company called Nosani Investments suddenly claimed his granddaughter, Riley Keough, owed them money and planned to auction off Graceland. Riley's lawyers said the whole thing was a scam with forged signatures. A judge stopped the sale the day before it was set to happen. No one from the company even showed up in court. So, who was Elvis Presley? Let's find out. Who is Elvis Presley? Elvis Aaron Presley was born on January 8, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi, to Gladys Love, née Smith, and Vernon Presley. His twin brother, Jesse Garon, was stillborn 35 minutes earlier. Elvis grew very close to both parents, especially his mother. The family went to an Assembly of God church, where he first found his love for music. Vernon worked different odd jobs, and the family often needed help from neighbors and government food programs. In 1938, they lost their home after Vernon was convicted of altering a check and spent 8 months in jail. In September 1941, Elvis started first grade at East Tupelo Consolidated, where teachers thought he was average. His first public performance was a singing contest at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show on October 3, 1945, when he was 10. He sang Old Shep and came in 5th. A few months later, he got his first guitar for his birthday and took lessons from 2 uncles and a pastor at his church. Presley remembered, "I took the guitar and I watched people, and I learned to play a little bit, but I would never sing in public. I was very shy about it." In September 1946, he moved to Milam School for 6th grade. The next year, he started singing and playing guitar at school, but was often teased as a trashy kid who played hillbilly music. He loved listening to Mississippi Slim's radio show. Slim's younger brother, one of Elvis's classmates, said he was crazy about music. Slim even showed him chord techniques. When Elvis was 12, Slim gave him 2 on-air performances. He was very nervous the first time, but managed to perform the following week. In November 1948, the family moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis attended L.C. Hume High School, where he earned a C in 8th grade music. When his teacher said he had no talent for singing, he played his guitar and sang a recent hit, "Keep Them Cold, Icy Fingers Off Me." He was usually shy and sometimes bullied for being a mama's boy. In 1950, he began practicing guitar with a neighbor, Lee Denson. Along with 3 other boys, including future rockabilly pioneers Dorsey and Johnny Burnett, they formed a loose musical group. So, what do you think about the shocking discovery in Elvis's attic? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.